The Ṣanʿā palimpsest, dubbed Ṣanʿā, is one of the oldest Quranic manuscripts in existence. It was found, along with many other Quranic and non-Quranic fragments, in Yemen in 1972 during restoration of the Great Mosque of Sana'a. The manuscript is written on parchment and comprises two layers of text. The upper text conforms to the standard Uthmanic Quran, whereas the lower text contains many variants to the standard text. An edition of the lower text was published in 2012. A radiocarbon analysis has dated the parchment containing the lower text to before 671 AD with a 99% accuracy. Discovery. In 1972, construction workers renovating a wall in the attic of the Great Mosque of Sana'a in Yemen came across large quantities of old manuscripts and parchments, many of which were deteriorated. Not realizing the significance, the workers gathered up the documents, packed them away into some 20 potato sacks, and left them on the staircase of one of the mosque's minarets. Qadi Ishmi al-Aqwa, then the president of the Yemeni Antiquities Authority, realized the potential importance of the find. Al-Aqwa sought international assistance in examining and preserving the fragments, and in 1979 managed to interest a visiting German scholar, who in turn persuaded the West German government to organize and fund a restoration project. The preserved fragments comprise Quranic and non-Quranic material. Restoration project. Restoration of the fragments began in 1980 under the supervision of the Yemeni Department for Antiquities. It was funded by the cultural section of the German Foreign Ministry. The find includes 12,000 Quranic parchment fragments. All of them, except 1,500 to 2,000 fragments, were assigned to 926 distinct Quranic manuscripts as of 1997. None is complete and many contain only a few folios apiece. Albrecht Noth was the director of the project. Work on the ground began in 1981 and continued through the end of 1989, when the project terminated with the end of funding. Gerdau Queen was the local director beginning with 1981. His involvement came to an end in 1985, when Hans Caspar Graf von Bothmer took over as the local director. Bothmer left Sana'a in the following year, but continued to run the project from Germany, traveling to the site almost every year. Beginning in 1982, Ursula Drame Holt served as the conservator for this project, and worked full-time in Sana'a until the end of 1989. She completed the restoration of the manuscripts. She also designed the permanent storage, collated many parchment fragments to identify distinct Quranic manuscripts, and directed the Yemeni staff in the same task. The manuscripts are located in the House of Manuscripts, the Dar al-Maktutat, in Sana'a, Yemen. After 1989, Bothmer would visit the collection periodically. In the winter of 1996-7, he microfilmed all of the parchment fragments that have been assigned to distinct Quranic manuscripts. Of the remaining 1,500 to 2,000 fragments, he microfilmed a group of 280. The microfilms are available in Sana'a in the House of Manuscripts. About the manuscript. The Ṣanʿā palimpsest is one of the most important manuscripts of the collection in the world. This palimpsest has two layers of text, both of which are Quranic and written in the Hijazi script. While the upper text is almost identical with the modern Qurans in use, the lower text contains significant diversions from the standard text. For example, in Surah 2, verse 87, the lower text has waqafina ala athrihi, whereas the standard text has waqafina min ba'dihi. Such variants are similar to the ones reported for the Quran codices of companions such as Ibn Mas'ud and Ubay b. Ka'b. However, variants occur much more frequently in the Ṣanʿā Codex, which contains, by a rough estimate, perhaps 25 times as many, as can be seen in the sample page from Sadeghi and Godarzi's edition. The lower text has no vowel marks and rarely uses diacritical marks for distinguishing consonants. The lower text was erased and written over, but due to the presence of metals in the ink, the lower text has resurfaced and now appears in a light brown color. A number of reasons may have led to erasure of the lower text. Some pages of the codex may have been destroyed or worn out, thereby requiring the production of a new codex, for which the already available parchment was used. Alternatively, the standardization of the Quranic text by Uthman may have led to the non-standard lower text becoming obsolete, and thereby erased. The parchment upon which the lower codex is written has been radiocarbon dated with 99% accuracy to before 671 AD, with a 95.5% probability of being older than 661 AD and 75% probability from before 646 AD. The manuscript is not complete. About 80 folios are known to exist, 36 in Yemen's Dar al-Maktutat, 4 in private collections, and 40 in the Eastern Library of the Grand Mosque in Sana'a. Many of the folios in the House of Manuscripts are physically incomplete, whereas those in private possession are held by the Eastern Library are all complete. These 80 folios comprise roughly half of the Quran. The lower text of the folios in the House of Manuscripts and those auctioned abroad were published in March 2012, in a long essay by Behnam Sadeghi and Mohsen Godarzi. Prior to that, in 2010, Behnam Sadeghi had published an extensive study of the 4 folios auctioned abroad, and analyzed the variants using textual critical methods. The German scholar Elisabeth Queen, whose husband was the local director of the restoration project until 1985, has also transcribed the lower text of several folios in 5 successive publications. The lower text of the folios in the Eastern Library has not been published yet. Variants. The lower text of the Ṣanʿā palimpsest frequently differs from the standard text of the Quran, although only a small fraction of the variants do make a difference in meaning. The below table presents some variants based on the lower text edition provided by Sadeghi and Godarzi. The page numbers refer to the edition by Sadeghi and Godarzi. In their edition, a reliably read but partially visible letter is put in parentheses, while a less reliably read letter is put inside brackets. A pair of forward slashes mark an illegible area on the folio, while braces indicate a missing part of the folio. The list here does not include all the spelling variants. Media coverage. Queen and his colleague Graf von Bodmer have published only short essays on the Ṣanʿā find. In a 1999 interview with Toby Lester, the executive editor of the Atlantic Monthly website, Queen described the preserved fragments by the following. Some of the parchment pages in the Yemeni hoard seem to date back to the 7th and 8th centuries AD, or Islam's first 2 centuries. They were fragments, in other words, of perhaps the oldest Qurans in existence. What's more, some of these fragments revealed small but intriguing aberrations from the standard Quranic text. Such aberrations, though not surprising to textual historians, are troublingly at odds with the orthodox Muslim belief that the Quran as it has reached us today is quite simply the perfect, timeless, and unchanging Word of God. The mathematician Geoffrey Lang wrote a letter to the editor of the Atlantic Monthly about the interview. It should be mentioned that the article's alarmist tone concerning the discovery of the Yemeni manuscript seems totally uncalled for. Lester admits that so far the manuscripts show some unconventional verse orderings, minor textual variations, and rare styles of orthography and artistic embellishment. However, the past existence of such manuscripts is well known to Muslims, and those that did not completely agree with the Uthmanic text were eliminated in various ways. The recovery of an ancient manuscript dating back to the earliest history of Islam that differs in minor ways from the Uthmanic text and that was eliminated from circulation will hardly cause Muslims to feel the need to rewrite their history. If anything, it will only confirm it for them. In another interview, Queen said, "So many Muslims have this belief that everything between the two covers of the Quran is Allah's unaltered word. They like to quote the textual work that shows that the Bible has a history and did not fall straight out of the sky. But until now the Quran has been out of this discussion. The only way to break through this wall is to prove that the Quran has a history too. The Ṣanʿā fragments will help us accomplish this." Queen claimed that the Yemeni authorities want to keep work on the Ṣanʿā manuscripts low profile. In 2000, The Guardian interviewed a number of academics for the responses to Puin's remarks, including Dr. Tarif Khalidi and Professor Alan Jones, a lecturer in Quranic studies at Oxford University, in regard to Puin's claim that certain words and pronunciations in the Quran were not standardized until the 9th century. The Guardian reported, Jones admits there have been trifling changes made to the Uthmanic recension. Khalidi says the traditional Muslim account of the Quran's development is still more or less true. "I haven't yet seen anything to radically alter my view," he says. Believes that the Ṣanʿā Quran could just be a bad copy that was being used by people to whom the Uthmanic text had not reached yet. It's not inconceivable that after the promulgation of the Uthmanic text, it took a long time to filter down. The article noted some positive Muslim reaction to Puin's research. Salam Abdullah, director of the German Islamic Archives, affiliated to the Muslim World League, commented when he was warned of the controversy Puin's work might generate, "I'm longing for this kind of discussion on this topic." Based on interviews with several scholars, Sadeghi and Godazi questioned Puin's claims regarding Yemeni suppression of research on the manuscripts and Puin's statement that the Yemenis did not want others to know that work was being done on them. For instance, they note that in 2007 Sergio Nozada and Christian Robin were allowed to take pictures of the Ṣanā palimpsest. They write that according to Robin, his colleagues were granted greater access than would have been possible in some European libraries. Quote, they report of similar view from Ursula Drame Holt, the conservator for the Restoration Project, who describes the Yemenis as supportive. They quote Drame Holt as saying that the Yemenis brought school children, university students, foreign delegations, religious dignitaries, and heads of state, like Frans Mitterrand, Gerhard Schroeder, and Prince Claus of the Netherlands, to see the collection. Sadeghi and Godazi conclude, although the Yemeni authorities' openness proved a boon to scholarship, they were to be punished for it. The American media amplified the erroneous words of Puin, purveying a narrative that belittled Yemen and misrepresented the work done there. The Arab press in turn exaggerated the American story. The outcome was a media discourse in Yemen born of 3 stages of misrepresentation. This embarrassed the Yemeni authorities responsible for the House of Manuscripts, and the head of the Antiquities Department had to defend before Parliament the decision to bring in the foreigners.